I got sober at the age of 30 without telling anyone. Well, I was postpartum with my son, and obviously, postpartum is a really hard time for anyone. I was feeling like those mood swings, like emotions. I was recovering from a really intense and traumatic labor, which is a story for another day because it was insane. And because of the intense situation that was my labor, I had to recover in so many ways. Like physically, I had to recover. I was physically unable to take care of myself for 2 weeks, and that's a lot for me because I'm a very active and, just like motivated and energetic person, and I couldn't do anything for myself. So that was really depressing. And then what I always say is like, I went through such an experience that I felt like I lost a piece of myself that day. I always say, like, there's a piece of Diane on December 13th, 2020 that is no longer with us. And I used to think that was a bad thing until I went through this crazy experience of growth and healing, true healing. And now that I've come out on the other side, and obviously I'm still always healing, growing, learning, I've realized that the person that passed, or the piece of me that is no longer with us, was a piece that had to die. And the person that has come from that, I appreciate so much more. In such a really intense situation, I was able to become the person that I am today. So the beginning of the change was being postpartum, going through these mood swings, feeling really anxious at times, thinking the worst of the worst thoughts. And then, of course, having spurts of, I'm not good enough. Who am I? I'm not worthy. I don't belong here. Where do I belong? What am I supposed to be doing right now? Thoughts. I decided that enough was enough. I didn't like the way I was feeling. I needed to do something different. And let me tell you something from experience: confidence comes from action, because those feelings of insecurity were coming from a place of, I'm not doing enough, and I wasn't acting upon those feelings. So what I did first was I bought this book called Atomic Habits, and it changed my life. Atomic Habits, you need it, because everything is habits. Our current circumstance is a makeup of the habits that we have, and our habits are a makeup of the beliefs that we have. So we act how we feel. And if we keep acting a certain way and it's a negative thing, that's going to create negative circumstances. And in the same way, if you believe big things about yourself, you're going to act in big ways and you're going to make big things happen. So all of that led me to getting this book, reading this book. I started off by waking up like at 7 o'clock in the morning, which was before my family, but it wasn't early enough because my kids were waking up shortly after, and I didn't have much time for myself. So I realized, like, okay, 7 o'clock isn't enough. I want to make sure I'm reading this book. I really like it. I enjoyed it. As soon as I started reading it, I was enjoying it. And so I started waking up earlier. It was like 6:30, 5:30, right? Get through this book. I started looking at my habits, start being more intentional, start being more present. I realized, like, okay, right now what I can do, the small thing that I can do, right, is maybe I can move my body more. Maybe I can eat more nutrient dense food. Maybe I can wake up earlier. Maybe I can read more. Maybe I can spend my time in the car when I'm driving my daughter to school, driving my daughter back, listening to podcasts that teach me something. I started to become more productive and taking more action in my life, being more present in my life. And so being present and intentional, well, it makes you look at yourself a little bit more, right? So I started looking in the mirror and I started being honest with myself. Instead of saying, giving myself excuses and saying, okay, Diane, well, you work hard, just eat whatever, or, you work hard, you don't have to go to the gym today, or, you were up all night with the baby, you don't have to wake up early and read your book, or whatever excuses that the enemy really wants you to listen to, because it's easier if you're weak and tired and out of shape and not paying attention. Of course, it's easier to manipulate you. But I realized that there was a lot of little things that I needed to get done. And for the first time in all of my years of fitness and weight loss journeys and fad diets, I finally was like patient with myself for the first time ever. And it was almost like me being postpartum gave me more grace on myself. So, like, I needed to be postpartum to give myself this much grace. And it was the best weight loss journey I've ever been on. And it wasn't even, I don't even feel like it was a weight loss journey. I feel like it was this awakening of Diane and her habits and herself, mind, body, and soul, and just becoming one with myself. So, because I was so present, because I was so honest, because I was looking at myself in the mirror and saying, Diane, get your ish together. We need to work out something because you don't feel good and you need to feel better because you deserve to feel better. I had to look at all my habits, and drinking is, while it can be an addiction for some, it's a habit for most, right? It's just a bad habit. It's just something that you did once and then you did it again and then you did it again. And how we form habits is literally by doing something multiple times, right? And we start correlating it to things. So, you start drinking and you correlate it to relaxing, or you correlate it to having fun. And then you kind of feel an attachment to it. I can't not drink because then I won't have fun. I can't not drink at the end of the night because then I won't relax. Like, so you start correlating, right? And that's how habits are formed. I mean, that's food, that's your workouts, that's you walking, it's the way you sleep, it's the way you wake up, it's looking at your phone right away. You start attaching habits to your life as you go. And this was one of those habits that I was like, I don't feel great about this, right? So I'm postpartum. I'm not drinking like how I used to drink, but when I drink, I'm noticing things that are different. So this time around, after 10 months of not drinking, I found that I obviously got drunk faster because my tolerance was gone. I would not have as good of a time. It almost felt like a chore. Like, okay, I have to drink the next drink, or I have to drink this drink, or whatever. Not really wanting to. Mind you, I breastfed for a year and a half. So obviously that also attributed to it. Me not wanting to waste milk or whatever it was. I also realized that I would black out like with way less alcohol. Like before, I would drink a lot, and I will get to that. I could drink all night. Like, I was known for being able to drink, and which is not a reputation that I love, but I was just known for being able to drink, right? And so I realized that it wasn't the same anymore. Maybe it was because I was pushing 30. Maybe it was because I was postpartum and my body just, it has not recovered fully. But not only would I have those blackouts, not really wanting to drink, it felt more like a chore, but I was getting super sick the next day. Like, my body was literally telling me, like, cut it. Not to mention, I'm on this like amazing habit journey where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna drink water, I'm gonna do all this stuff. Obviously, drinking puts a damper on that, right? I start by saying, maybe drinking is just not benefiting me anymore. Maybe that's just something that I need to cut out my life, and maybe it'll help me lose weight. Maybe it'll make me have more energy. Maybe it'll help me feel better to not drink alcohol. Not thinking of this as a sober journey, not telling anyone I was on a sober journey, not feeling like I needed healing from anything. I didn't see myself as an alcoholic or somebody that had a problem with alcohol. And that's why I didn't tell anybody about this, because I didn't want anybody, especially my parents and my family members, to think, "Oh, she has a problem with alcohol." Like, I could care less what like Joe Blow on Instagram thinks. But I didn't want my immediate family, people I care about, people I love, to think that they had something to worry about. So I didn't tell anybody. I told people exactly what I did, actually, which was 75 hard. If you've never heard of 75 hard, it's a game changer. It is a mental tough challenge. It's not a fitness challenge. And I did it with a group of people. So on November 1st, I was supposed to start 75 hard, and I kind of prepped everybody and told them, like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm not going to be able to drink for 75 days. So, like, don't invite me. We're good, right? My very last drink was on October 30th. It was my celebration of my 30th birthday. My 30th birthday was October 28th. 2 days later, day before Halloween, we have my party. It's like a brunch themed, you know, deal. And I drink that day, but not what the old me would have done. The old me would have said, "Oh, I'm not drinking anymore. Where are the shots?" Right? And just gotten super trashed. But this day, I honestly didn't even feel like drinking. Like I drank, but I was already in the mindset of I don't want to drink anymore. And so on the 31st, I'm like, technically, I'm supposed to start this deal on November 1st, and it's Halloween and that's a big drinking day or whatever. I didn't feel like drinking, so I just didn't drink. So my last drink was October 30th for my birthday, and it wasn't even an enjoyable experience. It was kind of like whatevs. So I tackle this thing as I don't have a problem with alcohol. I'm just doing this because I'm going to be healthier and more energetic, and everything's going to be peachy keen, jelly bean. I'm going to feel amazing. Well, about 2 weeks in, I'm like, okay, where's the drink? I need one. Which made me realize that maybe I did need more help than I initially thought. So I reached out to a sober person that had been sober for few years, a handful of years already. And I let her know what I was doing. I told two of my best friends. My husband knew what was going on. And I just needed a little community. I didn't want to tell too many people. I didn't want people to talk me out of it or to say, well, you don't have a problem. Why would you need to stop? I didn't want the influence of society, which is a whole nother podcast for another day. But I didn't want anybody to convince me that I didn't need to do it. So I did this in secret, which might be a little harder, but also like it has its ups and downs, right? So the upside being that I'm not going to be talked out of it, the downside being that I really don't have many people to run to. But what I did was I read a lot of books. I joined sober communities, sober Facebook pages, things like that. Some are good, some kind of might demotivate you. So you got to definitely be careful with that. But things that I found to be helpful was this book called The Naked Mind. It talks about the science behind alcohol, how alcohol is marketed to us, and just like the whole picture of alcohol. And what I really liked about that book is that in this book, they tell you, like, maybe you'll drink in like 10 years, but like for today, just don't drink, right? And so, because of that book, I still to this day say, like, I don't know if I'll be sober for the rest of my life. Maybe I'll drink a glass of wine at my daughter's wedding. Maybe I'll be a drunk by 80. I have no idea. But like right now, I just don't feel like drinking. Once I read that book and I saw the facts of the effect on you long term, on the effects of how it kind of like dictates things that you do in your psyche, how it makes depression and anxiety worse, I started to not like it at all. Like not doing it, I was like, I kind of hate alcohol. I kind of hate like the whole deal of it. Like it's the one drug that if you don't do it, you're judged. Like, what's wrong with you for not doing that drug? And so I started to see it just differently. But it wasn't all good and fun and exciting and happy. I mean, there were days that I would be listening to a podcast or an audible, specifically one time that I remember, Russell Brand, Recovery. He was just describing a night of drinking, doing things that he wasn't proud of because he was drinking, and things happening to him because he was drinking. And I related so much to it that I realized, I'm listening to this and I'm running and I'm realizing I might have a problem with alcohol. It might be deeper than I thought. It might not just be this little challenge I'm doing, but I really do need this. And I started to remember things that happened to me when I was drinking, or things that I caused because I was drinking, because I wasn't there, because I was blacked out. And I started to realize that it's been a constant in my life since I started drinking at 17 years old. And because it's been a constant in my life, there's so many things that I pushed to the back of my mind to forget about, because it was just so much easier to forget about it. And because I kept drinking, I kept pushing it to the side. And now that I'm so sober and so clear headed, I'm remembering stuff that I forgot about, that I physically pushed into a corner, shoved it in the corner, and like covered it up with blankets. Like, I did not want to see that. And things were coming to my mind that I forgot, that I forced myself to forget. And because of this, I broke down so many times. And the person I would break down to would be my husband or my girls or my journal. A lot of the times I didn't tell anyone. I just wrote about it. I would just write about things that I remember, people that I never forgave, situations that I never got past. But because I allowed myself to feel it and remember it and think about it and really just digest it, I feel like it was the first time in my entire life that I was actually like dealing with it, because I wasn't running to alcohol to forget about how I felt. I wasn't running away from my feelings. I had to feel my feelings. Every single time I had to feel my feelings. And to this day, it's hard. It's hard to always be so present and to always have to feel your feelings. But I wouldn't trade it for the world, because I am more present than I've ever been. And I am more myself than I have ever been. One of the biggest objections I get about people being sober, which, by the way, I never tell people you should get sober. People just come up to me and tell me why they're not sober. The biggest objection they have is like having fun. Like, oh, well, I just have so much fun. Like, I don't have a problem with it. It's just fun for me. And the thing about it is that one of my biggest insecurities, and most people's insecurities when getting sober, is that you're not going to have fun, or that you're not going to be fun. And at my very first party, I thought, like, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? Girl, grab a cup of coffee and go make conversation. Like, I'm an introvert and I forced myself to do this. And because of that, I've changed. I have become more outspoken because I am not crutching onto something, an outside substance, to be myself. I am being myself for myself. I'm forcing me to come out. And because of that, I've never been more me than this. The sober me is me. The other girl, this alter ego drunk person, was never me. It was someone else I was trying to be. But because I can be present and in myself and be bold and dig deep, I can be me, finally. And it's the most freeing experience. Even if you're trying to just find yourself and you don't want to be sober for the rest of your life, you just want to find who you are, your own voice. Being sober minded, present, intentional, it can be life changing for you. So, if you're sober curious, if you just want to try being sober for a month, I highly encourage you to do it. And make sure you're following, subscribe, like, comment. Tell me how you guys like this. I have so much sober content coming to you, so make sure that you are following along.